Hey guys, it's Jack. Been doing a lot last few weeks. Pretty sure this is my second one. Yeah, that sounds right. Anyway, I got myself a job. Just got home from there. Richard's been way cool. He's helped me out a lot. Helped me get papers so that I could actually do things. And in the interim, as I was looking for work, it's kind of amazing how much was actually available with everything that you guys have going on in this reality. Anyway, been doing a lot of research, and I've been watching this YouTube thing. Really neat stuff. Watching a lot of documentaries on your history and everything, but I'll get to that later. So I kind of want to talk to you guys about the differences between Kidron and Salt Lake City and all of its little satellite cities. So Richard is in one of the suburbs called Sandy. I'm guessing it was a desert or something. It's not exactly a moist place in my time, in my world, but it's well, it's called White House, and that's because one of the major settlements was a plantation here. They grew a bunch of apples and peaches and all that in the area, and it was a big white house. So it's kind of hard to get your bearings because everything is laid out totally differently here. I got to go downtown a few weeks ago. Thank God I got all that done before all the craziness hit. My God. Boy, you people fight over anything, won't you? Jeez. So, I got to go downtown, and where the center of your city is, I figured out how the grid's laid out here. And there's this big temple downtown. It's surrounded by walls, kind of like a Forbidden City type of thing. And I was talking to Richard on the phone as I was walking around. He told me that that was the primary settlement of the old Mormon pioneers that hit Salt Lake back in the 1840s. I have no idea what those are. I never even heard of them. I guess they just don't exist in my timeline. They're, well, we had a revivalist thing, if I remember my United States history right, back in the 1820s and 1840s. I'm willing to bet you guys had the same thing. A bunch of New World religions sprang up, and they did not last long. Yeah, a few of them made it a couple of generations, but eventually they just fizzled out. So, I don't know. I'd have to do a lot of digging in history books that I don't have access to anymore. Okay? Alright. So I was walking around in your downtown, and a very different place. In my world, that's called the Hills District. That's where all the rich people live. That's where we get movie stars, rock stars, music recorders, everything that you can think of. They like to settle here because the seasons, there's a lot of producers that live out here as well, and a lot of really nice houses. What is it with rich people and hills? I don't know. Crap rolls downhill, I guess. Anyway, I did go into the neighborhoods there, and some of the streets are a little bit kind of sort of laid out. Just the houses there are like a third the size of what they are in my timeline. Our downtown is what you guys call Murray and Cottonwood Heights, I think it is. Now there's a couple of rivers that come off. There's the big mountain over here. It's got a crater in the middle, got a crater in the top. Anyway, That's the downtown where I'm from. The Capitol building, if I got my bearings right, where that should sit is a strip mall. Yeah, big difference. So, I was a little bit surprised when I kind of got my bearings, a little bit sorta, and walked around looking for the courthouse and everything else. That, of course, is all in your downtown where it should be. Your downtown's kind of weird and a little bit scary, too. Our downtown, you know, you don't leave your stuff lying around, but you can walk around at night. It's fine. You just don't turn down dark alleys, and you may want to carry mace. Yours scares me. Okay. Oh, what else is there? When I got back to Richard's house, I found a map of the Salt Lake Valley in your timeline, and wow, just based on the markers, I think you call it West Valley in Magna. That is something else entirely. It's called Loch Norte, where I come from. It was a big Irish settlement. A lot of Spanish speaking, mostly Mexican, also settled alongside of them. They tended to the mines out on the far west side. Bunch of other industry came through there, so very working class. You don't go there if you know what's good for you. Okay. Meanwhile, down here in the south, White House in my timeline south of them is still all farms. There's nothing else there. And the middle part of the valley, I believe you call it West Jordan, Kearns, Taylorsville, all of that. That is mostly high density buildings. Lots and lots of apartments, townhomes, I believe you call them here. Not a lot of yard space, and that's where the non-artsy rich people live if they don't live downtown. White House into what you call South Jordan is all suburbs, and then we've got a bunch of other suburbs headed out by the lake, although why anybody would want to live there, I don't know. Most of that area is like poor suburbs. So you've got a bunch of rich people all along that northern rim of the valley, and then poor people. Well, to call them poor is a bit mean. They're more like half middle class and down. The rich kids, Richard explained the way the class levels work according to money here. The rich kids, parents combined, would make $50,000 a year there. Yeah. So, White House is primarily solid middle class to lower upper class, I guess you could say. Just depends on how close you get to the mountains. Our downtown has got a lot of nightclubs, a lot of bars. Really good time down there. Major travel hubs come out of there. The airport is, let me get my bearings here. There is Kidron International, and that bases out of, let me see here, because I'm using two different valleys, so math. Let's see, you've got Loch Norte, then what you guys call West Jordan, which is mostly kind of rich people. Then you've got the rim of kind of quasi-middle class. And then, yeah, that's the airport. It's, I'd have to drive out there to see, but I'm willing to bet there's not a whole lot. As I can see the mine from Richard's house, and that thing's pretty big. It's about the same size as in my timeline. So, the Salt Lake that we have there, it's somebody wanted to be ironic. So they named it Gellius. You get it? It's funny. No? Okay. Anyway, I'm not going to explain it to you. You're going to have to do your own research. All right. Lake Gellius in my timeline, it's a dead lake. Nothing lives there. There's lots of oil in it, though. For a time, they actually pumped oil and tar out of the lake. That is until everything started to rust because of the high brine content. Just ate the steel. Very sad. So, the valley south of here, you guys call Utah Valley, and the lake there's called Utah Lake. We call it Lake Gethsemane. Very, very holy land, I know. That's what happens when you've got Irish Catholic immigrants mixed with English Anglicans and a bunch of Mexican refugees coming in from the Spanish-American War and Mexican-American War and all that. Anyway, down there is, it's a little bit more religious than it is up in Kidron, but it's pretty laid back, I guess you could say. A lot of farms. There's a couple of city centers there. There's Grove, which they named it that because they figured, you know, this lake was probably a lot deeper at one point, and that looked like a grove or a cove, because also lots of trees were down there. So it's got a large amount of industry. A lot of vacation, tourism stuff goes on down there. There's a Natural History Museum down there. It's an offshoot of Stanton University. Ooh, by the way, I went to University of Utah up here in the north by downtown. It's a lot, it looks like Stanton, but it's just not the same. It's also in completely the wrong spot. Stanton University is, if I can get my bearings here. All right, you've got the Middle Mountain, and it's to the kinda southwest of that, almost to the other one. There's a big forest by it called Stanton Forest, and if my bearings are right, it's a big housing development up there in your timeline. A lot of rich people, which doesn't surprise me. It's gorgeous up there. I felt completely at home. Really nice spots, actually. I also got to look at a map of your world as it is right now, all the countries and all that. Oh, boy. Ooh, where to begin? First of all, you guys don't have a French Empire. It's just France. I'm going to have to do some research on that, find out why. Spain is Spain, Portugal's Portugal, Great Britain is Great Britain. I was kind of amazed that you guys didn't have a Roman Empire, you know, where my people are from. We came here right when Italy had unified itself before it became the Second Roman Empire. What had happened was there was this guy. I can't remember his name. I'd have to do research in books that I don't have access to find it. Anyway, he decided that Italy should be one country. He started off in, I think, Milan. Could be Turin, though. I'm not sure. Anyway, Got a whole bunch of followers, went fascist, and just started taking stuff over. It took them a few years, but eventually they unseated the Pope in Rome, made Roma the capital, and founded a brand new empire. The Great War happened thanks to a bunch of stuff going on with some of the satellite states of the Ottoman Empire. Macedon, Serbia, and I want to say it's Croatia? Yeah, it's Croatia. They all got into a big fight. Later turns out that the Ottomans pitted them against each other because they wanted to destabilize and move in, restore order, and take things back over. Europe was a mess. The German zone took sides on everywhere, and they all got into a bunch of fights. And Prussia and Bavaria to this day still hate each other. And lots of wars going on. Anyway, in the aftermath of that, Italy got saddled with a bunch of problems. And they decided to toss out the treaty. I believe it was Treaty of Brussels or something like that. I don't know. There's so many freaking treaties. Anyway, according to the treaty, they were not allowed to expand their territory. Okay, because one of the platforms of the party that unified Italy was they wanted to rebuild Rome. So they said, well, we're going to do it anyway. So I want to say it was 1933 or 1934. They invaded Croatia and eventually fought their way all through the Balkans and were finally stopped at the Black Sea after they had conquered Romania. And that's now Roman Empire. They also extended northern Africa. What you call Libya and Tunisia are part of them. And then you got the islands. The Balearic Islands are owned by the French, and they also own what you call Algeria. And Turkey in my world is made up of like 3 or 4 countries, that area. One big one's called Anatolia. It's very Greek. Egypt is a totally different place. Israel doesn't exist there. A lot of my Jewish friends are kind of pushing for it, but getting a lot of pushback on that. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen. So, oh goodness, what else is there? I was amazed how big Russia was in your world. In my world, after the Soviets fell and everything shattered, communism stayed relatively active in the southern Slavic states, the Turkish zone, as you probably call it. Anyway, Russia is basically just the western half of the country in your timeline, and then there's other 2 countries there. There's Siberia. It's a bunch of old military installations and kind of quasi-nomads, not a lot there. And Kamchatka, which is kind of sort of Japanese, Russian-speaking place. It's weird. Mongolia, in my timeline, is about 3 times the size of your Mongolia. And Japan is huge in my timeline. They control all of Manchuria and the Korean Peninsula and a few other little islands. I believe you call them the Philippines? Something like that. Anyway. Also, China in my timeline doesn't exist. Chinese exists, but it's spoken in like 3 different countries. There's Canton, and I can't remember the other one. And then Tibet. Tibet's a massive, gorgeous place to visit, especially if you're like super into Buddhism. You go to Tibet. There's a guy there by the name of Dalai Lama. That's his country. He runs it. from what I can tell, it's a lot like Vatican City, only with some oomph to it. In the Vatican City of your timeline. Pope does exist in my world, but just a religious leader, does not have his own country like he does in yours, and he's chosen by committee. The Italians allow him to have a place to live there when he wants to visit Roma, but for the most part, he's nomadic. Just goes around most of the major Catholic countries in my timeline, with the exception of France. Spain has a place where he can stay. He's got a place in Alexandria. Oh, Alexandria, by the way, very Christian. And he's also got some apartments, I believe, in Boston here, too. I don't know. I'd have to look into it. And, of course, I don't have access to those books, so how will I know? All right. Well, I'm going to do a little bit more research and kind of look into the state of your world versus what I remember from the state of my world and kind of how it got there. I was pretty good in history, you know. I'm not exactly a professor, but I can get by. Okay. Well, that's, I guess, all I got for right now. I'll be back later with a third one, assuming my cells don't self-destruct from my proximity to Richard. You know, quantum anomalies. We'll figure it out. I'm actually doing some math on it right now, and I might have a solution. We'll see. So, bye guys.